Conception, or rather the form of the conception, ultimately plays out exactly like how light behaves as a particle in wavelength. You know what I mean? This duality is ultimately a very fundamental unity. If you have the discrete measure of the conception as a form disclosing a set of particles within it, or a discernible set of components, their discernibility, or rather their practicality, how they look, their specification originated from a mental place, from an abstract point or a position, because we say, well, what makes something particular and specific is your discernibility of it within a wavelength, or rather within an environment. But when the object no longer becomes discerned, it develops a decoherence where now, it's identical with the environment, and therefore you would have to pick out some other particular point that is the discrete measure within it. And so the observer has this mediation of function where it's constantly, maintaining the position it just took to be indiscernible within a set of other possible, discernible points. And it is this dynamics. But simply it's, consciousness, we say, which is the character of the conception. The conception being the power and the ability and the action of consciousness. Consciousness is in an inertial position because it's always the light beyond the object. That's always ahead of the object. It's the speed of light that the object can never, or rather the observation can never catch up to, because it is the very limit of that observation that is in the first place being determined from the observer. If you see, the wavelength state is being determined from the observer, external from itself, and therefore reaches a limit, which is, that limit becomes a discrete point for it. Identically at the same time, or rather simultaneously, the thing it took to be discrete from the power of its determination, or from the power of its wavelength that shot out the wavelength, and within as it shoots it out within that wavelength, or the length of the wave, you pick out a particular point, and now that particular point is identical with the form of the thing you just picked out to disclose the process that it exists within as an indeterminate point that constitutes the wave of the length. And so, or rather the length of the wave. And the way this looks like is that these discrete measures that is being discerned within the wave are being disclosed by the form of the measure itself, and they multiply infinitely, or rather finitely, within a definite measure, meaning that you have 1 here and 3 there and 7, 8, 4, 5, 6, 2 million everywhere, and you're looking at one object, and behind it there's another object, and then those things are disclosed by a bigger object, and boom, and it's this dimensionally capturing itself. And do you know that we could observe this? We can observe this in our very, very daily observation of the world. You can literally see this if you pay ever slight attention. And let me tell you how.